you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, I've got the beams of sunlight coming through my apartment, so I hope you can still see me because I'm a little blinded over here.
The best part is I don't only see you, I can hear you.
Oh, that's great. Isn't that nice, Pierre? We got this new connection, new phone service. Everything's coming together finally for Mr. Jimmy Murphy. But hopefully for the Bruins, things will be coming together in the form of a Jeremy Swayman signing, Pierre. And we are going to preview the Boston Bruins 2024-2025 season, as well as the Toronto Maple Leafs as we close out the Atlantic Division. And I figured, Pierre, as I was sitting here listening to our wonderful theme song, let's get the Swayman stuff out of the way right away. 5 minutes tops, I say, and then we talk hockey. We just talk hockey when it comes to the Boston Bruins because I don't know about you. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, just wake me up when he signs or he's traded or whatever, because it's just getting a little crazy, Pierre. Story breaks today that in the Amazon Face-Off series, Jeremy Swayman was quoted as saying that he took notes during his arbitration hearing in 2023, kept them as motivation throughout the season, checked him off when he felt that he had met the criteria of some of the stuff that the Bruins said that he needed to improve or he wasn't good enough at. And he made it clear that arbitration hearing, left a scar on him. And we kind of all knew that because I was saying to you today, Pierre, when I called you, I said, this isn't really news because he said that when he got off the ice after Game 6 against the Panthers. He said, he mentioned the arbitration, he mentioned losing, hoping to be a Bruin. But the one thing, as you said, that was new and you caught it is the notes thing. And Pierre, you've been in some of these hearings before. Have you ever seen a player take notes and hold on to them?
No, I know that agents take notes or maybe their helpers take notes, but not players. And more times than not, the agent uses them as, collateral down the road if the player supersedes whatever was written or said about them. This was strange. And usually, Jimmy, when you take notes in any kind of hearing, you don't share them publicly. I don't know why this has gone this direction. I don't know who's advising whom. I don't know if it's agent. I don't know if it's players association. I don't know if it's family. I don't know if it's friends. I don't know if that's just what Jeremy's doing. But whomever is doing this, and even if it's him, it's probably not the right track. It's probably not. It doesn't mean he's wrong. He's entitled to his own stuff. Like, I get it. Yeah. But I'll just tell you, you don't need to be living with that. The guys that you get in the room with every day, they're there because they support you. I'll give you an example. Last night in the Florida-Tampa game, there's a big hit on Victor Hedman. Okay, Jimmy? And it's a younger guy stepping up, an American Hockey League player stepping up and hitting Hedman. And then Kucherov gets involved. And later, Geeky gets out there, and, he's a kid, and he fights him, and he wins. And he kind of jumped the player, but he got a pretty good advantage. But the point is that there's the family situation. They're guys. So when you're in the room with those guys for an entire year, and Jeremy's been there for a while now, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be saying that stuff publicly. Yeah. Who are you trying to impress? Because you're not impressing your teammates.
No, I'm with you on that, Pierre. And it is interesting. Look, like I said to you before we got on the air, okay, if you want to take notes, go for it. That's your prerogative and whatever. But the thing that bugged me is the same thing. Keep it to yourself. There's nothing wrong if you have things that motivate you and you go out and it helps you perform on the ice. No big deal. That's great. But just keep it to yourself. And here's the other thing that he took them to arbitration, Pierre. So let's make that clear.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether he was just sort of, obviously it's his first time, but you would think that his advisors, whether it's an agent, whether it's agent's assistants, as you said, or other players, you would think that he would know that, these things have never been fun. I mean, I remember when Ray Bork went to arbitration with Harry Sinden in the Bruins. And this is a Hall of Famer we're talking about, and he was pretty much halfway through that Hall of Fame career. He had proven himself. Now, Swayman still got a lot to prove, in my opinion. Bork had proven himself, and he understood it. He wasn't happy, Nobody's going to be happy when you get ripped or you're told you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. But I'm, just suck it up. Like, this is part of it. And it's not personal. It's just like any job. When your boss brings you in, he's going to tell you what to improve. You gotta take it, and that's it. You move on.
Sometimes it is personal.
I guess.
I'm just going to tell
I haven't
you,
been in there, so I shouldn't say, I guess.
So I'm just telling you as your friend, sometimes it is personal.
Yeah.
And it can get very nasty. And so it takes a strong soul to go through arbitration, and it takes a stronger soul to come out with a healthy attitude.
Right.
I'm just telling you. Now, some teams are more friendly than others.
Mm-hmm.
But more times than not, it's not a friendly process. So it is kind of personal. And you're not wrong on most of everything you said. But, Jimmy, that's the part I don't get. This negotiation was going pretty well. There wasn't a lot of leakage. There wasn't any acrimony in the public domain. And then for whatever reason, about, Jimmy, would you say 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Something happened. I don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never professed to be an insider. I don't go around calling manager and say, what about Jimmy Murphy? What about, this guy? What about, I don't do that. Like I'm not an insider. I was a guy that worked in the league and coached in the league and made trades in the league and signed contracts in the league and broadcast in the league. But I don't consider myself an insider. I don't call guys up and ask for scoops. And so I don't know what happened, but something happened.
Yeah. And so it gets, but I just think, Pierre, like, even if you and I had an argument, or you tell me, Jimmy, you were really brutal on the podcast today, I'm not going to like it when you say that, but I'm going to store it away. And yes, I'll use it to get better, but I'm not going to look at it like, well, screw Pierre. I don't want to be with him anymore. Like, how dare I guess that's just how I'm built. I've learned over the years, you can't, especially in our business too, just like hockey, you can't take it personally. I know you said it's tough when you're in this situation, but
There's only one thing I tell you before we have guests on. It's not about you. It's about the guests.
Mm-hmm.
Ask your question, get out and button up.
Exactly.
That's all I tell you.
Yeah, because I do ramble. I talk a lot. But that's that. Listen, okay, so that's our take on that. We'll see where it goes from here. Let's start with the Boston Bruins on that note, who, as we speak, are preparing up in Quebec City at the Videotron Center to take on the Los Angeles Kings in an exhibition up there. Happy as anything. I wish I could be up there. I'm so happy for the fans of Quebec. As you mentioned, too, the young fans that get to see some pro players right there in their backyard. And it's such a great hockey city, such a beautiful city. I urge anyone who's never been to Quebec City, get up there. It's beautiful. You literally feel like you're in Europe. Montreal's got that feel, but it's a whole other degree in Quebec City. So pretty cool that they're up there right now. And they won't be with Brad Marchand, who's ill. He left the game sick the other day. He's still sick, according to Jim Montgomery, and Matthew Poitras with an undisclosed injury. They kept him home to nurse that. But we look at this lineup right now, Pierre, and we touched on Poitras there, and he could see some time both on the wing and center. I love their top six. I really do, even though, like, people might say, okay, so it looks like Morgan Geekie's on the right. Is he really a top six player? He's a middle six guy to me, but he proved many times during the season, whether it was because of injury, whether because they elevate him because of his good play, he proved he can handle those minutes and he can handle the role. But then you get to that bottom six and we'll stay in the middle. And that's where there's question marks for me with the Boston Bruins. What can the guys in the middle, in the bottom six, bring to alleviate some of the workload for the guys in the top six, Pierre?
I think a lot. Whether you have Trent Frederick playing in your bottom six, which I think he will, Brazo, I think, will play in your bottom six, Kastelik, Beecher, those guys will be in your bottom six, maybe Patrick Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you got size. You got some snarly. This is going to be a Bruins team that's going to be built like a Bruins team.
Yes.
They're going to get into a lot of street fight situations. And I don't mean going out and fighting guys. I mean creating physical mayhem.
Yep.
I thought last year Trent Frederick was one of the most improved players in the NHL. I really did.
Yep.
Really did. So Brazo's a kid that came out of basically nowhere and has earned his way into the lineup, which I think is great. Johnny Beecher, as his season went along, you can't fault with the way he played. He's a big person. And getting Mark Kostelek from Ottawa is huge. I worked with Mark both in Ottawa and in Belleville, Ottawa's farm team. Big fan of the person, very large fan of the player because he understands what he needs to do to stay in the league.
Yeah.
He does. He's
got a good work ethic.
Build penalty, block shots, work hard, first guy on, last guy off, in the gym, support of his teammates, fights for his teammates, not himself. Like, this guy gets it. Cap friendly. He's an amazing. I'll give you a great story. This shows you how, and nobody knows this except for the players in Ottawa.
Okay.
This shows you what kind of kid he is. When he got called up and he was there full time, and I was not in Ottawa then, I was getting ready to work with you. The All-Star break was coming up. And some of the people in Ottawa in the upper portions of the organization, rather than let him go on break, they were going to send him down to Belleville, where he would have been on his minor league deal rather than his NHL deal. And the players went in to upper management and said, no. This guy's one of us. He's on our team. He's not going down.
Like Rudy.
Pretty
That's
much.
Great.
And that said, when I heard that, it told me a lot about Brady. It told me a lot about Tommy Shabbat. It told me a lot about, the guys, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, older guys, Travis Hamonic, older guys that had been around. It said a lot about them, but what it really said is what an awesome teammate Mark is.
That's great. That's awesome to know, too. And I'm sure the Bruins would be happy to hear that as well if they didn't already know it. Pierre, I'm going to go back to Frederick quick before we move on to the defense for the Bruins. He's a natural center, but he's mostly played the wing. But Montgomery, more than Bruce Cassidy, Montgomery has really switched him up a lot and given him some looks at center there. Even in this preseason, he's gotten a look in the top 6 center role. I don't think that would happen in the regular season. No. But could you see him ever becoming a center again, or you think his NHL role is, moving towards a regular winger?
When I watched him as a kid when he was coming out of St. Louis, and he was with Brady Tkachuk and all those great St. Louis players.
Yeah, told me about that.
So I saw them, and then he obviously went to the University of Wisconsin. I always thought he was a winger. Even though, he was a center, he could dominate because of his size. I thought in the pros, because of how intense he is, how physically aware he is, he can dominate board play. I always saw him being probably a better fit as a ground and pound winger rather than six sleek, toe dragging guy.
Yep.
But I think so much of him. I remember when he first came up, I was doing a bunch of Bruins games, and he was fighting guys all over the place. And it just took a lot of guts. So he was a young guy coming out of college. He didn't have a lot of experience doing that.
Yep.
I just like the player. I'm a fan of the player, and I think he fits probably better as a power forward on the wing.
It's funny you bring that up, that he was fighting so often early when he came up. I remember last year, I think it was right around now. I mean, it was towards the end of the preseason before the season started. And Jim Montgomery said he had a conversation. But look, that doesn't have to be your role. You've got skill. You've got a lot of skill, and we believe in you. And, I've talked to some people in the organization. I've talked to scouts from other teams. I can see this guy being a regular 20 to 23 to 25 goal scorer if everything comes together. And that's why I think, and I'll tell you what else, Pierre, the player, you said Kostelek's a great teammate. The players in that locker room really love Trent Frederick. I guess he's one of the guys that never thinks of himself. He's always doing stuff for other people. He could be sick as anything and ask some other guy, how you feeling? Are you okay? He's just one of those guys that's always caring for his teammates and his friends.
There's a guy in Washington. His name is Tommy Wilson. And I'm not trying to say Trent Frederick's better than Tommy Wilson, but I'm telling you, there are a lot of the same characteristics there. There are a lot of them. Yep. Tommy Wilson's a valuable guy. I think Trent Fredericks is valuable. I'm telling you, for the Boston Bruins. And with all the size around them now, it's going to open up room for Pasternak, even though he doesn't need a lot of guys to help, but it will. It's going to open up room for Marchand. Like, those guys, they can go score. They can go do their stuff now. They don't have to worry about the other stuff, because if the other stuff comes their way, there are people there to clean it up.
Yep. Yep.
You
And
know,
on
which I don't know if the Bruins have had for a long time. They haven't had this much of it for a long time.
not since 2013 in my eyes.
No.
You know?
So we agree. We agree.
Yeah. Looking at that blue line, Pierre, you said just the same as the forwards. There's a lot of size. There's a lot of grit. I get a feel, and I'm not saying they're going to win a cup or anything, but it reminds me of, the Seidenberg days and Chara there and all that. And it's got that feel to it. And what else I like about them, especially in the top four, is they're very interchangeable. You can go at in-game throw Lindholm and McAvoy, for a few shifts or a period. And then you can turn, okay, let's do Lindholm and Carlo and switch it up. Let's put Zadorov up with McAvoy. You could even drop Zadorov all the way down to the third period. And they blend together well. And I don't know if that was strategically done by Don Sweeney and the scouting staff, but they seem to have a good blend of skill, size, and speed.
They got a lot of size.
Mm-hmm.
I call Zadorov Ivan Drago. I've seen him do some damage to people when he was in Colorado. I mean, he made a mess of some guys. He really did.
Oh, yeah.
And, he's a hard guy to play against. The one thing, and this is for Bruins fans, and Nikita knows too, he has to make really smart decisions at key times in games. It's not always about going out and exploding and blowing guys up. That's just
right.
It can't always be like that. Sometimes you got to just back off and make a smart play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he gets himself. And this is why, you look at it, Buffalo, Colorado, Chicago, Calgary, Vancouver, now Boston. That's a lot of movement, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of movement. So, you wonder why is he moving a lot? And I would tell you part of it, not all of it, but part of it is the decision making. So I think he's more mature now.
Yep.
Especially when you're around Hampus Lindholm, when you're around Brandon Carlo, and when you're around Charlie McAvoy, you kind of see how they play. They all play smart. They all play right.
Yep.
And I think Zadorov will understand that too.
You bring up McAvoy. Now, I had going back and forth with one of my friends just about the Swayman situation, and he's completely switched sides now. He's on the team side, and he says, I can't believe that this guy wants as much money as McAvoy. But then he texts me, and we've had this conversation. I think it was Andy Brickley. We had a really good one about this during the playoffs, if you remember, Pierre. Might have been in between the first and second round. And I think the next game, McAvoy played out of his mind after we had the convo. And a lot of people just think he's overpaid, and they think he's overhyped. And they said, this guy, there's too much hype around him. He's not a top two, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what they're watching. Mm-hmm. I think he is top 10 easily defenseman in the NHL.
So I'm not gonna give you any names, okay? I won't give you any names, but I'll take a team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've won one playoff series in 7 years. Okay, I'm gonna take Toronto. If Charlie McAvoy went on the market and the Toronto Maple Leafs thought they needed a defenseman,
which they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You think they would take Charlie?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think Charlie might be their number one guy?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I know a couple teams in the West.
They're more than a couple.
If the Bruins ever start thinking like the fans, yeah.
Bring Toronto up because it is a rival.
Well, it's relevant to what we're talking about. Yeah.
It's what they need.
Oh, it's been an Achilles heel forever.
They don't have.
Yep.
And they would overpay.
Oh, yeah.
To get him.
Yep.
And when he leaves Boston, you can't replace him until you draft him because you can't get those guys.
No.
I'll give you. So this is okay. And I hate to make Bruins fans get all squirrely. When you traded Joe Thornton,
mm-hmm.
I said at the time, and I was really doing a lot of work. I was probably doing close to 110 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying, that's a bogey, and you'll never get a mulligan on that. You can't find centermen like that. You have to draft them.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, the rest is history. He goes to San. And this is not a knock. Hey, it's not a knock on Brad Stewart. It's not a knock on Marco Sturm. It's not a knock on Wayne Primo. Those guys came in and played their butts off for the Bruins. It's not a knock on those guys. But none of them is Joe Thornton. And none of them would ever be Joe Thornton. It's the same with when you get a right-handed shooting defenseman that can do what Charlie can do. You got to draft those. They're hard to get, man. I'm just telling you.
It got way better last year, but there's still room for improvement with him. The only thing I'd say for him, shoot that puck, man. You've got a shot. You've got it.
Jimmy, you're not wrong. I think that's actually a really good point. But
and I know
everybody keeps talking about points with him. You got to get points. You got to get points. No, the points are going to come. You know, one of the greatest gifts I ever had was getting an opportunity to work with Larry Murphy. Right-hand shooting defenseman.
Good name.
He wasn't physical. He wasn't fast. He was big. He made unbelievable passes. He was beautiful on the power play. His lateral mobility for a big guy was way undervalued. But we never talked about points. Whenever he'd come in for his meetings, we just talked about, down low, you may want to use your body this way, or you may want to put your stick there. We never talked about points. And I think Raymond Bork was on with us, and even Raymond talked about it. He said, they just got to worry about him just playing. He doesn't even worry about all the points. Like, don't worry about all the outcomes. It'll come.
Yeah.
It'll come.
It's true. He's a great all-around defenseman. And you know what, too, Pierre? Yeah. Whenever Marchand is done, as far as I'm concerned, the C's going to him. Like, I think he's in line. He's shown his leadership there, and I'm not trying to put too much pressure on him there at all. But he's just got that captain feel to him. And you hear him in the locker room. You see the way he's matured in dealing with us, with the media. He's great. And I just hope Bruins fans, by the end of this year, they're going to, the majority of them will start to realize what they have in him.
Hey, he's about to be a dad, too, which is even cooler.
I heard that. Congratulations to him as well.
So the biggest thing with Boston, I'll just say this. Their goal scoring is good enough. Their defensive is good enough until the goalie situation gets stabilized. I don't know if they'll be good enough, but what's going to overcome the goaltending, I think,
is the blue
line and the team commitment. Look at Jimmy Montgomery. I don't care what anybody says. He's a really good coach.
Oh, he's great.
He's a really good coach.
Yeah.
Whether I saw him coaching in Dubuque, or whether I saw him coaching at the University of Denver, or whether I saw him coaching, in his first pro job with Dallas, or when I saw him as an assistant in St. Louis, and he gets another opportunity and he comes to Boston. Jimmy's a really good coach.
He is. He
is.
And
he's surrounded. Kelly's really good. Sacco's really good. Like, they're surrounded. They got good people there. The Bruins have a really solid infrastructure of people. So
Jay Leach back in the fold there as well.
Leachy's back there too. I forgot that he was back. Thank you for pointing that out. Yep. So they're in a good spot. I don't know what happened with the goalie stuff, but something happened. So just got.
Well, it was interesting. I think you were out that day. I think it was the Northeastern Golf Tournament, and I had Aaron Portzline on to tee up the Columbus Blue Jackets with me. And I don't know if you got to see it, Pierre, but he reminded us, don't forget that in 2019-20, the pandemic season, Jonas Korpisalo was 19-12-5, 2.6 goals against, 0.911 save percentage, and also to this day has the most saves ever in a playoff game in that 5 overtime loss. So you put him. I've seen it before, Pierre. He can work wonders. Goalie Bob. You put him with Bob Essenza. Maybe he finds a little of that. I'm not saying he's going to go out and win the Vezina or anything, but maybe he's at least good enough, and he finds his confidence again. I wouldn't put it past Bob Essenza to be able to pull that off.
Well, I hope so. That'd be good. That'd be a great story. Justin Peters, who's a name that won't ring a bell to you. Justin Peters is a really good goalie coach. I worked with him.
Yep.
He had no luck with Korpisalo. So, I hope you're right. Yeah. I never like to prejudge.
Right.
So I think he's coming in with a clean slate, and Bruins pro scouts clearly thought that he was going to be able to come in here and do a job. They moved Ullmark to Ottawa, so let's give him a chance.
Yep.
He gets a chance. And if it works out, it's awesome. It's a great story. And Bob Essenson will get tons of credit. And if it doesn't work out, don't blame Bob.
Nope.
I don't mean you. I mean the fans. If it doesn't work out, It's because there's a flaw in the player.
Yep. I'm with you on that.
That's been seen in other markets, by the way. It was seen in LA, it was seen in Ottawa. So we'll see how it plays in Boston. That's all.
All right, let's switch over to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Pierre. Obviously, Bruins and Leafs, great rivals, always seem to end up playing each other in the first round every year. Excuse me. Another team, let's start from the goalie out for the Leafs, shall we? That's a team I look at, too. Very questionable between the pipes. You mentioned how, defense has been the Achilles heel as well, but I think that's the bigger Achilles heel right now. However, maybe not. And a guy that we really love, Pierre, and we spoke about, and you told his amazing story to the NHL, and he was a big part of that Florida Panthers team that won the Stanley Cup. Anthony Stolarz, 30 years old. I know it's crazy to say, but hey, I watched Tim Thomas do it at an older age. Could he be one of those guys that just blossoms late? Because I saw a lot of blossoming when he played in obviously a backup role in Florida, but there's a lot there. And Toronto saw something there. They wanted to go get him. They were quick to get him as well. So what's your take on what he might be able to do in the goaltending situation?
Well, if you go past Toronto Maple Leaf lore and history, Johnny Bower, the last time they won the Stanley Cup, 1967, he wasn't a young guy. You know? So, and I think Johnny Bower, you have to look it up, but I think he might have started his career in Providence with the Reds, if I remember correctly. I know he played there. But eventually he found his way into the NHL and played for the Toronto Maple Leafs as an older guy. So hopefully, for them anyway, Stolarz is kind of like the late Johnny Bower. But I've always been a fan of Stolarz, Jimmy. I saw Stolarz play at Nebraska Omaha. I saw Stolarz play when he went to the Ontario Hockey League. I saw him play a lot, obviously, when he was in Philadelphia. I saw him play in Anaheim. He's a huge guy. He's very athletic. He's very strong. I think he's extremely flexible for a person that size. And I think he can surprise a lot of people. I thought it was a really good pickup. And Joe Wall, who's going to be, played at Boston College. He's not intimidated coming into Boston. He's played in that rink a million times.
You called it, Pierre. I remember that. He turned that series around.
So that's what I mean. So I don't think the goaltending's an issue in Toronto as much maybe as it was. And offense is clearly not an issue. This is a team last year that scored 303 goals. I mean, offense, they had a guy that had, 70 goals counting playoffs in Austin Matthews. The breakout player there, I think this year will be Matthew Nyes.
Oh, I'm so great.
Matthew Nyes is going to really rip it up, Jimmy. They've got some issues, I think, still with their bottom six, even though Johnny Tavares is a third-line center. He's elite. And Bobby McMahon, kid out of Colgate that was undrafted, he's done a real good job since going in there. I think they just need to stabilize the last two lines. They need a right winger, I think, on the third line. And I think they need potentially two wingers, even though I know they have Ryan Reeves, and he's a fan favorite in Toronto. But I think they need to look at stabilizing that. But outside of that, offense isn't going to be a problem there. It's going to be about defense. And got a new coach, Craig Berube. You got a new guy to run the power play, and the Mark Savard, former Bruin. And the power play in the playoffs last year, Jimmy, was the second worst in all the playoffs last year. In the regular season, they were probably anywhere from 7 to 10, depending on the night. But in the playoffs, that power play went squirrely in a hurry. And that's why Guy Boucher lost his job. He was the architect of the power play. And that's why they brought in Savard. I think the staff is good there. I think Berube will grind them. It'll be a very different experience for a lot of them. But, no, I think Toronto's a playoff team.
Yep.
Now they just have to get out of the first round.
You think they can win a division?
In the regular season?
Yep.
Yes.
I do too. They're my pick for the Atlantic. Quickly, one other goalie I want to bring up because I do have a feeling we might see him up in the NHL. Yes. So, Pierre, I'm talking to a scout the other day about age. I don't know. We were just talking about kind of unknown goalies, and he brought him up, and he said, we tried to get him at the deadline, and Toronto said, hell no. We believe in him a lot. Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people know about him, Pierre, but this kid's got some promise.
No, he's got huge upside. Saw him play a fair bit.
Big kid too.
Yeah, he's solid. He's good size.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good. I don't think he's going to be beating out Stolars or Wall this
No.
year, but he has upside for sure. For sure.
Yep.
It'd be like, remember when you were talking about Askarov potentially going to Montreal, and
Yeah.
the first ask from Nashville was, "Well, we're going to take Jacob Fowler," and they're like, "See you later. Get out of here with that stuff." Well, it's the same thing. Somebody says to Toronto, "Well, we'll trade you player X, but we want Hildeby," and they're going to buzz off.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. So that's the kind of player he is. He's one of those.
By the way, I Googled some info about him afterwards, and it turns out, I guess, in this camp that's just finishing up, Stolars, I guess, because they're similar in size, similar in kind of form, has basically taken him under his wing and been his big brother in camp and been a mentor to him, and he loved it. So it's good. That's what we go back to have a guy like Stolars. He's not going to be just great on the ice, but also in the locker room.
No, he's mature. So you got to look at pedigree matters with those guys, especially when they're older and you're taking them in. You play with Johnny Gibson out in Anaheim. You spend a lot of time in Philadelphia with a huge number of goalies, and you're never causing a problem. You're down in Florida with Bobrovsky. Spend some time with Spencer Knight. You look at it all. He's been around with a lot of different guys, and they're mostly good guys.
Yep.
So I think Anthony's obviously I thought it was a great pickup for Toronto. I really did. Now we'll see. We'll see whether he does it or not. I personally believe in the kid. Again, I'll never forget, Doc Emmerich and I were in Omaha to do Nebraska-Omaha against Colorado College on a Friday night for NBC Sports Network. And Doc asked me about Stolars. I said, no, I've seen him a fair bit. He's good, Doc. He's a good player. He played phenomenally well in that game. He was really good. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't long after, though, that he left to go to the Ontario Hockey League. I think you have to look it up, Jimmy. I think he went to the London Knights.
Check it out.
But he was he's always been kind of on my mind. It's a guy that I think never got enough acclaim.
Yep, and you are correct. He went to the London Knights in the 2012-13 season.
Yep,
and won a championship with them as well.
They usually do. The Hunter brothers do an amazing job there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
05 Memorial Cup. I'll never forget it. It was Rimouski and Crosby against Corey Perry and the London Knights, and the London Knights just did a number physically on Crosby, and eventually they won. And Corey was phenomenal. Corey was great. But the Hunters are just a phenomenal hockey family. They run a juggernaut there in London, just a juggernaut.
They really have. All right, let's get over our Q&A. But before we do that, let's talk to you about Betway. And, how about those Tigers?
I know one guy on this show that's really been good with the baseball. He wears a hat. I don't know if it's because he's losing his hair, but he's really good with the baseball stuff.
You're onto something. I'm gonna have to consult with you on how to deal with losing the hair.
Don't ask me. Look what happened. Don't ask me.
Hey, you do it well. You do it well, my friend. But yeah, how about those Tigers? Unbelievable, and of course the Padres as well advanced. As I told you, go check them out, see what you can get for a World Series matchup there. But you can get on hockey. You got tons of football starting up. There's Thursday night football tonight, and of course the college slate starting up on Saturday and NFL Sunday. So I want you to go over to Betway right now because they are the leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on Betway.com or scan that QR code right in front of you if you're watching right now. Otherwise, you can join the action by going to the site there. You must be 18 plus and play responsibly. All right, let's go over to our Q&A. I saw some good ones I was noticing as we were talking there. What do we got to open it up? Alex Ivanowski. I got two Western Conference teams who need a goalie. The Avs and the Kings. You are correct, Alex. If you're the Bruins, what could you ask for in a trade from those teams? Probably another goalie, and then what? Well, yesterday I think Pierre nailed it. He said somebody maybe you can slot in the 2C, push Coyle down to his natural 3C spot, and a goalie. So I think we're in agreement with that. I don't want to get into names right now.
No, don't. I'm counseling you now. Do not.
I'm not going to get into names, but I think Pierre nailed it there. If I'm Don Sweeney, those are the positions I'm honing in on. You agree?
We do.
Still?
We do.
And I don't think it matters the team. I really don't. I think
there's more than 2 teams in the West that need goaltending.
Yep, me too.
But Alex is on to something, and you answered that, in my opinion, really well.
All right. Next question. Enter tap. Any chance a team offer sheet Swayman for $9 million a year? It would cost the team 2 firsts, 1 second, and 1 third. Quickly, Pierre, all I'll say about that. And somebody asked, can they still offer sheet? And they can. But I was wondering after when we got off the air, I was just thinking to myself why he didn't receive an offer sheet. And I wonder if it's because teams that maybe were thinking about it were scared off by what his reported demands are. And maybe they're more in agreement with the Bruins.
There's another thing. It's called the salary cap.
Oh, yeah.
We're right up against it. You got to be cap compliant by Monday.
Yeah. And there's not many teams that have a lot of space.
There's not a lot of teams. Maybe Columbus, but there's not a lot that can do it. And it's just, it's just not. If it happens, I'll be very surprised, and we will say we got it wrong, but I don't see that happening.
All right, what do we got? Next question. GB, what's up, GB? Jimmy and Pierre, what are your view on top players fighting? Should they fight to protect themselves, or is it too dangerous to lose them to injury? I think, you avoid it if you can, but sometimes passion gets the best of you. I think all the way back to 2004, of course, with Vinny and Jerome, LeCavier and Aguinla. But, I think you nailed it there. You don't want those guys to A, get hurt, and B, be sitting in the box for 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, there are people that can take care of that stuff. But sometimes, guys just get enough's enough. I've had it.
Yeah.
And they just take care of business on their own.
Nope.
It's not something that happens all the time.
Well, I mean, look, we saw Kachuk have enough there the other day.
He's different. His agents and his uncle, Craig Oster, is one of his agents. Donnie Mean and Patrick Morris are the other guys. In the negotiation, I'm not afraid to tell you this. He said, but you guys, you don't understand. He's a unicorn. I said, yeah, he is a unicorn.
Yep.
He and his brother are different.
Yep.
Matthew's different too. They're different cats. They are. It's like the Sutters. People forget the Sutters were really good players.
Yeah.
But they were different hombres. Like they came to town and they'd fight each other. It didn't matter. So some guys are just different, but I would just say this, most of them, they'll take care of it if they have to, but they usually don't have to.
All right. And Pierre, one thing too, before we'll go to the next question, I just want to take one break. Wanted to mention too, I had a good conversation with Sarah Stanton recently. Everybody's excited, very excited. It's getting close. It's getting closer and closer. We're going to Belfast, the Friendship for. Very excited about that. We will have numerous guests starting real soon, leading into that on Campus Friday. Looking forward to seeing Stevie Thornton over there and Joe Bertagner, who we already had on last week. So it's going to be fun. There is buzz picking up about this one. And from what I'm told, Pierre, this is the most buzz there's been for this tournament. So I think we're going to get some good crowds over there in Belfast.
Well, look at the fan bases are going. Boston University's going. Harvard is going. Merrimack is going, and Notre Dame is going. So Notre Dame's going to Ireland. I was in Ireland when their football team played Navy, and Dublin was overrun with big leprechauns from the Midwest and all over the world. Merrimack's bringing their band, so tons of people are coming from Merrimack. BU's bringing their band. Tons of people are coming. Harvard, Teddy Donato's already been over there on a site survey. He can't wait to get going there. But to me, the biggest thing about it, all those schools, this is an amazing honor for them too. The Belfast Giants, who are a big part of this, the pro team, I was there and I've talked to their owners. I've talked to their great general manager, Stevie Thornton. Sheldon Keefe's brother is the coach there.
Oh, wow.
And they use hockey as a vehicle to work in the community, to get everybody unified. Yes,
because it is.
There's the troubles and the social unrest. It's been part of that fabric for so long, just so it's not part of it anymore.
Yep.
And they've done such a good job with it. I was blown away talking to the ownership on a Tuesday, I believe. On a Tuesday, and then on a Wednesday, getting a early in the morning in Boston, having breakfast with Stevie Thornton and the ownership group, and just them talking about their vision for the Friendship Four. And starting in 2026, Jimmy, women are going to be going.
Oh, that's great.
They're going to have, the women tournament over there too. So this is great. I'm so excited to get you over there for you to see what it's about. I've been fortunate to go over there a lot because my daughter lives and works over there right now.
Yep.
But no, it's really special. And Sarah Stanton and Cara Travel have done an amazing job with this. The people at the Bister Collection in Kildare, Ireland, they've done an unbelievable job helping you and I out. And so no, it's going to be really exciting.
Really looking forward to it, and I can't wait to have more guests on to talk about it soon. But let's get back to that Q&A. What do we got? Renaissance Resistor. Hey, Pierre, who was your biggest preseason surprise and biggest disappointment thus far? For me, it's Wah. Also, thoughts on what happened with Igor Sokolov.
So let's go with Igor first. Igor was with us in Belleville, and you just thought, at least I thought, and a bunch of us thought that he would make the jump and be able to be an everyday NHL player. He put numbers up in the Quebec Major Junior League that were really impressive. And for whatever reason, he could do it in the American League, and then that next step just wasn't there for him to do it in the NHL. And so I'm not saying it's over for Igor, because it's not, but I still think that, the opportunities there. The biggest surprise, it wasn't a surprise to me, but it's a surprise, I think, to the fans in Montreal, and we had Jeff Gorton on earlier in the week, Lane Hudson. Most people, Jimmy, if they're being honest and they're being fair, said too small, will make no impact. This will be a year in the American Hockey League. He went into Montreal's camp. He dominated. He dominated every single thing that he did. And right now, if the Canes don't play him on the first power play, that's on them. That's not on the kid. And so he's been, I think, one of the biggest surprises in the preseason. I think most pundits and most scouts thought there's going to be a year of development for him. He won't have to do that year. So that's been one of the bigger surprises. But to me, and I'm going to keep saying it, Jimmy, because they're not getting enough credit, Anaheim's good. Anaheim is going to be far better than what people think. Anaheim is going to be far better, Jimmy. Yep.
We were talking about Leo Carlson yesterday, and what's he go out and do? A goal and 2 assists. Paired up with Cutter Gauthier. Man, they look good together, Pierre.
Do you remember when the Cutter Gauthier trade happened? I said he's going to get in the NHL, and he's going to have a legitimate chance next year, meaning this year, to be the Calder Trophy winner. I mean, I saw him a bazillion times. How many guys are that big, that fast, that skillful, and they get 40 goals in one college season? You know how hard it is to score 10 goals in college?
I know.
40.
Yeah. And a pretty murderous schedule, too.
And every game, I know they had tons of great players around him, but he didn't play on the USA line. The USA line was Will Smith, Gabe Perreault, and Ryan Leonard. And that's not to say the guys he played with weren't good. They were good players, but they weren't as good as Ryan Leonard, and they weren't as athletic as Gabe Perreault. So he got 40 goals, Jimmy.
I know. It's amazing. And you got to think, too, Pierre. I mean, when everyone plays Boston College, that's like the big game on the calendar for them. So these teams, every game for Boston College is like a playoff game. So for him to do that in that environment, it's pretty amazing.
I think, and the biggest surprise, because that's I'm just telling you, I think they're really shocked people.
We're going to see. I think I'm right with you there. And Greg Cronin's doing a wonderful job, as is Pat Verbeek. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky. I know we talked about Kaczynski yesterday, but overall, how do you think Chicago is doing with the rebuild? Where do you see Nazar, Moore, and Bosovic? Boisvert, okay. Fitting in down the line.
They got a bigger issue. What are they going to do with Korchinski, and what are they going to do with Reichel? Korchinski's got crushed last year. We talked about it. So now they realize, what did we do? So now they're sending him down the American League. Reichel's had every opportunity, and it's not working. And so they're going to have to think about what they're going to do with him. And I think you'd have to look it up, Jimmy, but I'm pretty sure he requires waivers. Nazar is going to be a good player for them. He is. I like what they did with him. They're not rushing him into Chicago this year to start the year. They're going to give him an opportunity to play down there, get all the big minutes. He'll play in the power play, be on the penalty kill. He's going to be an elite penalty killer in the league. He'll play huge minutes as a centerman, not a winger. So I think that's a positive for them and for him. I think most of the guys will be developed properly. Anders Sorensen is a coach down in Rockford. He does a really good job with the players there. So I think the rebuild's on the way. I think it's going to take a little longer than what they think, though.
Yeah.
A little longer.
Yep, I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Enter tap. Hi, Jimmy and Pierre. Does Ovechkin have a legit shot at breaking Gretzky's record this year, giving the support core?
I think it'd be tough. I think it's going to be tough. Not having, obviously Kuznetsov has moved on, and he's hurt right now over in the KHL, and Backstrom, is not playing. So, how good is Pierre-Luc Dubois? How good is Dylan Strome?
Yep.
If both those guys are really good, then maybe he's got a chance. But if they're not, and the power play's not the top 8 power play in the league, I think it'd be tough for him to do it this year.
You were correct, by the way. I was just sorry, I was distracted. I did look that up. Reichel does need has to clear waivers to go down.
Yeah, so that's going to be a problem too, because if they send him down or try to, there could be a team out there that knows him and says, you know what, it's not the right environment for him. We're going to take a chance. Then they lose him. So that's why it's a big decision on him, boy. I'll tell you what, that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out in Chicago.
All right, next question. Sebastian Leclerc. What's up, Sebastian? Does it occur to anyone that Swayman just doesn't want to play on a team that will likely need to enter a rebuild during his prime years? I don't know if they're going to enter a rebuild. Everyone has been saying that for years now, Sebastian, but they haven't really. They retool on the fly. That's their MO.
Jimmy, say Leclerc.
Leclerc.
Okay, good. So, Sebastian, I kind of see what your premise is, but I don't agree. I'm with Jimmy on this. When you look at that defense, Boston's always going to be in the middle of it. The defense is too deep. You're not giving enough credit, or maybe a lot of fans aren't, to Mason Lowry. He's just starting to come. Brandon Carlo's got a lot of years left. Charlie's got a lot of years left. Hampus has a lot of years left. Zadorov is still really young, and he's got years left. They've got guys coming along in their organization too. Riley Duran is one that comes to mind. Kid that played at Lawrence Academy and played for Nate Lehman at Providence. Mm-hmm. So they've got stuff coming. Merkelhoff, I know Merkelhoff's one of your guys. You like him. I know you like him. You've told me about him for years and years. I saw him play at Ohio State. I've seen him play a little bit in Providence. I'm not as warm to him as you are, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I think he's got a chance to play. So there are guys there. So Sebastian, with all due respect, I'm not sure I agree with that premise.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. Shane Wright is starting to look like he might take the next step. I completely agree.
He did last night for sure. And I you know what, Ronnie, that's right. I mean, we're on the same page there. And I know where he used to go for dinner when he was a young kid, and it wasn't working out. But I can tell you, the people that took care of him in Seattle that first year for him, they said, good kid, listen to mentorship, wants to be good, he'll put the work in. And that's from an unimpeachable source, a husband and a wife. The husband plays in the NHL, and the wife is very intelligent. And I'm just saying, so I think it's starting to click too. And I know Ronnie Francis is very excited about it. So good pickup by you, Ron.
He's filtering in for sure. All right, next question. Morantz, gentlemen, would you say that the evolution of NHL hockey has become more and more disrespectful and shows a lack of empathy for each other, especially towards the elite players? When I see headshots, I think that a lot. I do. But overall, I don't think it's that bad anymore. It's situational to me, that whole situation there.
I think hockey mimics what happens in society.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in society, we're not nearly as civil as we used to be. And I still believe that one of the greatest downfalls, and I hate to do social engineering on a hockey show, is the evolution of social media and chat rooms.
Yep.
People can go in there and be a keyboard warrior and never be held accountable for anything they say.
Mm-hmm.
People formulate opinions on me. They've never met me. They don't know me.
I know the feeling.
No, but you know what I mean, Jimmy? Like they don't know me.
Yeah.
I'd love to sit down with those people and say, okay, if you meet me and you talk to me, then
Yeah. Iron it out.
That's good.
Yep.
Do it. But you don't know me.
Yeah.
So I think hockey kind of mimics what happens with society.
All right. I echo that thought as well. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, was it a mistake to trade Allmark before the deal was done with Swayman? Yes, we still believe that. And I know
we said that
connected.
the day Olmark got traded.
Yep. We were on the air. We were right on the air.
Right away. We're like, hope there's a contract getting agreed to with Swayman.
Yep.
Oh.
All right. Next question. David Robinson. What's up, Dave? And Dave, by the way, you were right about the waves right out here. They're looking great now. Jimmy Pierre, hello from Slovakia. Just watch Richard Panik get a crazy one-timer half slap off a face-off here in Bratislava. What are your thoughts on Slovakian influence on the modern NHL? That's awesome, Dave.
So, Jimmy, first you're going to say Panik.
Panik.
Okay, good.
You know what we're gonna have? Who's the guy that had the pronunciation book here? You got to get it.
Doc Emmerich and Chuck Caton.
All right, we're gonna call them up.
Two guys are mentors to me, so that's I do it to you now.
I want you to, because I can't stand when I say somebody's name wrong.
So Panik was a really good World Junior player. He's been a solid NHL player in his career. Bratislava is an amazing place to go watch hockey. I don't think you can even start the Slovak discussion without talking about the Stastnys.
Yep.
And back then it was Czechoslovakia, but the Stastnys really were the ones. And then, Big Z and Marian Hossa, it's pretty amazing. You look at the guys, Marian Gaborik. I've spent a ton of time over there, and I just love the hockey culture there. I just love going, whether it's, the Czechia it's called, but back then it was, Czechoslovakia, and it's just both places are great, and they've made a big impact. But the Stastnys, Peter Stastny, Jimmy, I mean, he didn't come over in his prime.
Back Nordiques.
Jimmy, the guy was so good. I was coaching when he was playing, and he was in New Jersey.
Yeah,
he was good, man.
One of my first players I ever took a liking to was Peter Stastny.
Well, Big Z. I mean,
yeah,
Big Z was just a different cat. He's just totally different. Hossa, Mark Recchi told me, and Hossa's in the Hall of Fame now. He said to me, of all the guys that he played with, the best player that didn't put up huge points was Marian Hossa. There are guys you play with. Like, he played with Mario Lemieux. He played with Ron Frank. He played with a lot of good players, Mark. He played with Eric Lindros. He played with a lot of good players. But he said the best player was Marian Hossa.
Wow.
That's pretty high praise. That didn't get a lot of points.
No, but he was amazing. Look what he did with the Blackhawks there.
And then, like the late Pavel Dimitra, I had the privilege of coaching him.
Wow.
He's an amazing player. All those guys were really
He's a wonderful man too.
Tremendous.
I heard he was just class act.
Tremendous guy. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Slovak hockey's been really good for a long time, and it's a huge sport there. Huge sport.
Enjoy, David. That's awesome that you're there. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, with the Eastern Division starting as rough as it is, do you think this will continue throughout the year? The Western Conference is so quiet. It's interesting, Pierre. I was thinking about this the other day. Everything's cyclical, obviously. You think back like 10 years, everyone looked at the West as the big bruising conference, and
they were.
Yeah.
They were.
And now it's definitely switched. It's the East now for sure.
I think it's situational, though, but you're right. I'm going to take what you said a couple of questions ago. So Vancouver, Edmonton's not friendly.
No, that's a good point.
Anaheim, LA is not friendly.
Calgary, Edmonton.
Dallas, Vegas isn't friendly. Calgary, Edmonton's not friendly. There's certain Winnipeg Mini's not friendly.
Rivalries. Yeah.
There's certain ones that are built in. The one that's going to be interesting this year, because they're going to be good, is Nashville. Nashville's going to be a good team. We saw some of their offense last night. They popped 6 on Carolina.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't it was not an A group for Carolina. I know that. But they popped 6, and, you know, Marchessault was good. Stamkos was good. Forsberg was good. O'Reilly was good. Nyquist was good. Yossi was good. Like, you know, their guys they were good. The guys that had to be good, they were good. And they'll continue to be good. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Nashville. Who's going to be their rival? It used to be St. Louis and Chicago.
Yep.
I don't know if either one of those.
For a while, too.
Yeah, but Detroit's in the East now. So,
I know now. Can't. Yeah.
So it's kind of different. You know why part of the Detroit thing happened? And I didn't know this till I spent a lot of time down there. A lot of the auto worker stuff went from Michigan to Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, people would come down from Michigan to cheer on the Red Wings, but they get mad at the fans because you took our jobs. Oh,
that blood off the ice already. That's good
know,
stuff. Good little tidbit.
Nothing was crazier back in the day when we do the national game at 11 o'clock in the morning and on a Sunday, and it was Chicago, St. Louis, and St. Louis. There were more fights
you told me
that than there were in the freaking rinks all year long combined. It was unbelievable.
It was all before noon.
It was, and there's a brewery there that's pretty popular.
Yeah.
People were not afraid to imbibe with the Anheuser-Busch stuff.
And don't forget, Nashville kind of took the tradition in Detroit. They threw the squid, and now they throw the catfish. So they kind of took that from them as well.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you think the NHL should bring in taxi squads?
It's not a bad idea.
I have always liked that idea. Good point, Randy.
That's not, you know what? I've thought about it just because of my football background, but I never thought it'd be implemented. But I look at it now. It's actually not a bad idea. The only problem would be getting game reps for those guys. You know, that's where it's a little different than football. But it's not a bad thought. I just don't know how big you'd want the taxi squad to be. You know,
right.
That's where but it's not a bad thought.
Next question. Here we go. Marvin Matthews. In the words of Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part. How excited are you both to get the hockey season going? Glad you brought that up, Marvin. It was interesting. I was out with my friend Jeff here in New Hampshire last night at dinner, and I was like, oh, wait. It's been like 7 years since Tom Petty passed. It was the anniversary last night, unfortunately. So we had the bartender play some Tom Petty. Good call there. Marvin's a good musician, by the way, Pierre. So
I see his avatar.
Yeah,
that's cool. I think it's great.
I'm excited. I love this time of year.
Yeah, I'm excited for the games to get back. You know, we've got some going on now, preseason games, and there's some college games that are starting. I'm going down to watch UConn and Colgate tomorrow. Then Saturday.
And who do we have on the show tomorrow, by the way?
Yeah, Mike Cavanaugh for the head coach at UConn. And then Saturday night, I'm going to watch Holy Cross at BU. And then on Sunday afternoon in Hamden, Connecticut, I'm going to watch the Northeastern Huskies and the Quinnipiac defending, ECAC Super.
The McGuire tour is back on.
I like going to games. So it really never ends, though, Jimmy, because you know how much I work with kids.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Hey, there are a couple guys, by the way, I'm really proud of that are part of our group that are playing right now. One of them, Marshall Rafai with Toronto, he's had a tremendous preseason. A former Harvard player. I'm really proud of Marshall. And Willem DeVoe played at Harvard. He's been with our group for about 3 or 4 years now. He had a real good game last night in Springfield for the Hartford Wolfpack, and he's still there today, and he skated, and I'm really proud of those guys. So, I stay in touch with them when I train them, and I want to make sure they're doing okay. And I'm really, it makes me happy to see how hard they work and they get a little bit of success. So I'm excited. So to Marvin's point, hockey kind of never really ends. I keep it trying to go all because I'm addicted. Yeah. I don't know what would happen if it ever ended for me. No, I'm serious. I don't, because it
won't, Pierre.
It's the passion. Like yesterday, 40-minute talk with William Scott Bowman. He's 91 and he's humping it. He's still watching tons of stuff. Yep. It was awesome. I hope I had the same opportunity because it matters to me.
Oh yeah. And I love it. And that's why I love working with you. All right. Next question. Danko, thoughts on salary cap reprieve for the Habs on Price since Vegas is getting it now for Leonard? You'd think there's instances where the league would consider it if the player is clearly done.
Yeah, it's a really fair point. Very fair point. I don't know what went into the Robin Leonard the discussion. I don't know. And I think every situation is different, but in that case, the way it's presented, it makes a lot of sense. It's fair to ask the question. I just don't know what went into the Vegas presentation, and I don't know if Montreal even went down that road on Carey Price. I just don't know.
All right, next question. I think this is our last. Oh, no, it might be two more. Alex Ivanovsky, thoughts on Nate Danielson, Marco Kasper, and Carter Mazur preseason so far with the Wings? The more I watch Danielson, the more I think he could eventually be a 1 seed down the line.
Yeah, so we're in agreement. I think if you listen to the show or watch it enough, you know what I think of Carter Mazur. I've been watching him since he was a kid playing for Detroit Little Caesars for Chris Draper. So the guy that drafted him. So I know Carter and his body work, and I met his parents numerous times. Good player. And in terms of Kasper, Marco Kasper, I saw him at draft year over in Sweden. I still think there's room to grow. Pace, I think, is the biggest thing for him right now. But Danielson's spot on. I do think he could be a legitimate first-line center.
All right, we got one more here. Let's do it. GB, Jimmy and Pierre, what are your favorite team jerseys? Well, I don't know if it has to be past or present, but I'm going to put in the I always like the Blackhawks, the Red Wings. All the original 6 I love, but I got to go hard for the Whalers. Quebec Nordique's got to be in there.
So I'm going to say I've got a Pittsburgh Penguin sweater in my closet that is pretty valuable, so I'm not getting rid of that one. But I would say the red Montreal Canadiens sweaters. It's hard to beat that.
They're amazing. All the
a lot of good memories of those sweaters when I was a little boy.
I bet. A
lot of good memories.
Not too many in Boston from that era.
No.
All right. On that note, it's been great doing the Atlantic Division and all our division previews. And Pierre, I know you're not one for predictions, like for who's going to win the cup, so we're not even going to ask that. And because I couldn't tell you, I really don't have a pick right now. I don't.
Well, I don't think whomever somebody picks,
I don't think there's a sure shot.
There's probably, it's like last year.
It's wide open.
6 or 7 teams after the way Edmonton started the season, did you really think they were getting to the Stanley Cup final? Did you even think they were making the playoffs? I remember at the beginning of the year, most people had Vancouver out of the playoffs. You start looking at it. This is, I think, in Gary Bettman's wildest dreams, this is exactly what he wanted.
Yep.
Almost every market now, not every, but a lot of markets having a legitimate chance to compete for the cup.
Yep. There we go. Shane saying Leafs, Panthers, Lightning, and Bruins as the top 4 in the Atlantic Division. We shall see. I agree with you.
That's fair.
Yeah, could be.
That's fair.
All right. That's a wrap on this one. Thanks to our friends up in the studio, up in Montreal. And, of course, again, really excited for the Friendship 4. Looking forward to that. We're going to start getting some on-campus guests. Looking forward to tomorrow. As we said, we've got Mike Cavanaugh, the head coach of UConn, joining us. Yep. Note to everyone out there, there will not be a Q&A tomorrow because we're doing an on-campus Friday. But we're pre-recording tomorrow. So it will just be, I'll intro it and we'll go into that, and that will be it. So we'll see you back here in the questions section on Monday.
Yep.
As we get ready to kick things off next Tuesday in Stanley Cup, I was going to say Stanley Cup playoffs, not yet in the regular season. It shows you how excited I am to get there for the 2024-2025 season starting next Tuesday. We'll have it all teed up for you on Monday. Until then, this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.